Greetings, comrades. Hope this finds you well. Quick shout out to the Indian News Network, which I'm stoked to be a part of. So, as I was scrolling through Twitter this morning or yesterday, maybe, I saw a tweet from Jake Paul calling out Dana White. I believe Jake and his brother, what's his brother name? I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below. They were pretty famous on YouTube and kind of had made a career out of that, and then both had kind of transitioned to being professional boxers. And in this tweet, Jake Paul was calling out Dana White and the UFC, telling the UFC and Dana White to increase fighter pay. Minimum fighter pay now is only $12,000. Jake Paul was saying it should be increased to $50,000. Guarantee that UFC fighters get half of the UFC's revenues. The revenues in 2021 were $1 billion, as well as providing long-term health care to all the fighters in the UFC. I guess previously Dana White kind of had made this flippant remark basically saying that brain damage is a part of the sport. And then there's a lot of people who previously fought in the UFC who talked about having, suffering from brain damage as a result, which isn't obviously super surprising given that it's mixed martial arts. And, oftentimes, or at least some of the time, you're going to be taking, shots to the dome, right? And then so Jake Paul was saying, accept that, I'll retire from boxing and fight Jorge Masvidal in the UFC. And then Dana White comes out with his video, and he said, well, you've said that I've done cocaine before, I'll go do a drug test. And then basically, said, if you want to start, different business and treat the fighters better, go ahead and do that. So, and then also accusing Jake Paul of using steroids. So I don't like people accusing other people of like using drugs or whatnot. Whatever you consume in your own body as a consenting adult shouldn't really matter. So him accusing Jake of using steroids, Jake accusing him of doing cocaine, and Dana accusing him of doing steroids. I don't fucking give a shit. Who cares? They're adults. Put in your body whatever you want. And then basically, Dana White wasn't taking any type of responsibility at all for how shitty the UFC treats the fighters, particularly people on the low end. And again, not taking, the criticism seriously, which again, they're very legitimate criticisms. If the UFC made $1 billion in revenue in 2021, and yet they were paying the fighters the minimum of $12,000 for literally putting their lives on the line. So people like Dana White and these other, big shareholders in the company are making off like bandits. It's pretty problematic. But again, that's what a capitalist system do. That's what capitalists like Dana White is profiting off of. He's exploiting the labor of these UFC fighters, particularly people at the lower end, but obviously people, with championship belts and these different weight classes in the UFC, right? They're putting their lives on the line. They're not, getting the financial compensation that they should, but people like Dana White are, and that's kind of what the gist of Jake Paul's tweet there. I mean, they don't have health care. They're not getting a fair share of the, profits and all of these, different things, right? And then, so it's not surprising, right? This is just another example of capitalism at play, right? The people at the very top, like Dana White, are making off very, very well for themselves. He's not in there getting his head, caved in. He's not taking these, massive blows or kicks or, submissions, right? It's the fighters. It's the fighters who are making UFC what it is. It's not fucking Dana White, right? He's not in there getting, participating in mixed martial arts. He's not the one, headlining these pay-per-view cards, right? It's the fighters, but who's benefiting predominantly? It's the owners like Dana White. It's the capitalist class. Again, this is just another example of how capitalism is the virus. And again, he didn't take any type of responsibility. He was just saying, we treat him as good as we can. If you think you could do better, Jake Paul, go create a business, go create another organization. Because Dana White knew he couldn't actually address the criticism at all because it was legitimate, and he doesn't want to give the fighters health care. He doesn't want to raise the minimum fighter pay. He doesn't want to give more revenue to the fighters because that would impact his bottom line. Maybe he would actually have to get a real fucking job himself, right? Instead of exploiting the labor of all these fighters in the UFC. So pretty interesting back and forth, but capitalists are gonna capitalist, right? They're gonna exploit people's labor. They're gonna take surplus labor value. That's how they make their wealth. That's how Dana White became so wealthy, by exploiting the fighters, by not giving them health care, by giving them pennies on the dollar, while the UFC and Dana White have been raking in literally billions in revenue. And the fighters, have saying they're getting fucking brain damage and they can't even get health care. And he's saying, well, it's just part of the gig. So definitely on the side of, the Jake Paul analysis here, just Dana White, he's just a fucking chode, right? Just a capitalist chode. So yeah, interesting. Let me know, what do you think about this little Twitter spat between Jake Paul and Dana White? Like the video if you like the damn video. Subscribe for more content. All part of the people. Quick shout out to the 2 Uber comrades supporting my channel, my partner, and Indie Left News. Peace.